Hello, good evening, everyone. We are live here. I'm Moshe Oliveira from Brazil, and I'm glad to have the second Q&A with Billy Phillips. This time, Billy is going to share with us some secrets from the Rav, and also some miracle stories, and also we have some questions from the audience. Please, you can ask any questions you want. Writing on there is an app there. I think you can work things out. Okay, we have here. Oh, we already have some questions here. I can see. To introduce Billy, if people don't know him, I'm going to introduce him. He has been a student of the Rav and Carey for 25 years plus. He has lectured all over the world, and this includes NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, the Kennedy Space Flight Center, and also Kabbalah centers all over the world: New York, Miami, Boca, Germany, Spain, and of course Los Angeles, where he's live now from. His goal is to make the teachings of Kabbalist Rav Berg accessible to people from all walks of life, and he lectures on the Zohar's influence upon Christianity, Islam, science, and physics in our everyday lives. So, hello, good evening, Billy. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's start with any story. You told me we're going to start with a very nice story, and I'm excited to hear that. Please.
Yeah, to begin to share miracle stories that I experienced with the Rav, I want to share a story that took place about 200-300 years ago in the Ukraine, in a small village, where the great Kabbalist, who was known as the Baal Shem Tov, in Hebrew, that means the master of the good name, like the name of God. Anyways, the Baal Shem Tov was preparing to leave the world. He was on his deathbed, life bed, and he was prepared to leave the world, and he gathered all his students around him, and he told each one what they should do for the rest of their lives to bring Kabbalah to the world. So he called over one particular student and he said to him, look, what I'd like you to do is I want you to travel the world and tell people stories about me. And the guy's wondering, wow, how am I going to make a living telling stories? But he's my teacher, and it's a great honor and a blessing to even be a student of the Baal Shem Tov. I'll listen. So he went around traveling to different villages and different countries, he would tell stories here and there, and just went on for a couple of years, and he had to borrow money and borrow food from people as he traveled village to village. And then one day, after a couple of years, he heard that there was a very wealthy man in a small village somewhere in Italy, and that this wealthy man was willing to pay money, a large sum of money, for each story that was told to him about the Baal Shem Tov. So you figure, wow, that's the reason why he made me a storyteller. I'm going to become wealthy. So he traveled to this village, and he knocked on the Baal Shem Tov's door, and he said, hi, I'm the official storyteller of my master, the great Kabbalist, the Baal Shem Tov. So he said, great, I want you to come to my house tomorrow. We're going to have a bunch of people over to connect to the Sabbath, and I want you to come over, and at the first meal that we eat for the Sabbath, you can share stories. So the next day he comes over, and they do the first meal. It's Friday night, and the place is packed. The home of the Baal Shem Tov is packed with guests and people. And now the Baal Shem Tov introduces him and says, okay, please share your stories. And all of a sudden, his mind goes blank. He can't remember anything, and now he's embarrassed. He's starting to perspire and sweat, and the Baal Shem Tov says to him, listen, no problem. You can't remember tonight, I'm sure from all your travels. Tomorrow, at the second meal that we have during the Sabbath, you can share your stories. Next day happens, they sit down for lunch, and the Baal Shem Tov introduces them and says, okay, please share your stories. Again, his mind goes blank. He can't recall a single story. He's so embarrassed. He's perspiring. He's sweating. He's He's ashamed. The Baal Shem Tov says, listen, don't worry. Third meal, the final meal of the Sabbath, you're going to remember. Third meal comes, same thing happens, doesn't remember. He apologizes, he shakes the Baal Shem Tov's hand, and he leaves. Anyways, he's traveling to go to a new country, and as his horse and carriage goes by a house, he sees there's an old house all cordoned off. It was blocked off with wood covering the windows, and he suddenly remembers a story. And he says, wait, should I go back or should I forget about it? He says, you know what, I better go back. He goes back, he knocks on the wealthy man's door, and the wealthy man opens the door, and his eyes are all bloodshot and red. Anyways, the guy says, listen, I finally remembered a story. I know everybody left, but I think at least I should share it with you. So the wealthy man brings him into the house, sits him down, pours him a cup of tea, and says, okay, please tell me your story. So this is what he told him. He says, look, I don't remember the whole story. I only remember part of it, but this is what I remember. And he told the wealthy man, he said, years ago, I was with my teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, and we were traveling to a village. And when we arrived there, we saw that all the houses were boarded up with iron gates and wood. And we knocked on one door, and we said, what's going on? Why are your houses all blocked off and boarded up? And they said, the bishop has ordered a massacre in this entire village. We're hiding. We're trying to protect ourselves. So my teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, said to me, go get the bishop. And there was 1,000 people in the streets from the army. And the bishop was there riling them all up, getting ready to launch this massacre. And I said to my teacher, they're going to kill me. He said, just listen to your teacher and do as I say. So the guy, he said, I walked over, and the 1,000 people, it's like they split apart as I walked towards the bishop, as if it was like the Red Sea. And I went to the bishop and I said to him, my master, the great Kabbalist, the Baal Shem Tov, wants to meet you. He looked at me. I thought he was going to kill me. He said, you tell your teacher to come see me. So I went back to my teacher and I said, he doesn't want to come meet you. He said, you should go to see him. And the Baal Shem Tov said, listen, he said to me, go back and tell him it's the last chance. He has to come see me right now in my house. And I was convinced I was going to be killed, he said to the wealthy man. So I walked back out and I went to the bishop and the Baal Shem Tov, and I said to him, the Baal Shem Tov said, you must go see him in his house. I was stunned. The bishop said, okay. So together we walked back to the Baal Shem Tov's house, and the Baal Shem Tov took the bishop into his private room. They were in there for 2 hours. The bishop came out. His eyes were red, tears flowing down his cheeks, and he went out and he called off the entire massacre. And all the army disbanded, and the village was saved. He says, but that's all I remember. And suddenly the wealthy man looks at the guy and says, you don't understand. That was me. I was the bishop. I was the guy who ordered the massacre. And so when you came to get me, I went with you to your teacher's home, and he took me in the room, and he touched something deep in my heart as he shared the wisdom of Zohar. And he asked me to repent, and he asked me to find the soul deep inside of me. And I did. And I broke down crying and begging for forgiveness. And I asked your teacher, I said, how will I know when heaven forgives me? And he told me, when someone comes and tells you this story in your life, then you will know you've done enough repentance and you've been forgiven. So when you couldn't remember those stories, those first three meals on the Sabbath, when you left here, I begged and I pleaded and I cried, and then you came back and you told me the story.
Oh, wow.
So that's a very famous story that took place a few hundred years ago. And there's a reason behind that story, and there's a reason behind every story about the Baal Shem Tov or the great Kabbalist Rabbi Isaac Luria. And the Kabbalists tell us, when you pray and you beg for assistance and nothing happens, and you try all the prayers and all the meditations and all the names of God, the Kabbalists say, do something very simple. share a story about a Kabbalist, and that will help bring the answer to your prayers. So tonight, I want to share some stories about Kabbalist Rav Berg that happened to me in my life personally. And that everybody here tonight, if you have a prayer that hasn't been answered, ask for it to be answered tonight because of the wonderful story I'm going to share about Kabbalist Rav Berg and Karen Berg. So, let's begin. First, we'll begin with a secret that the Rav told me. Before we get into some of the miracle stories that I experienced in Kabbalah, the Rav taught me a great secret about the most important event in human history, the giving of the 2 tablets and the Torah, the Old Testament, on Mount Sinai with Moses. And the Rav explained that what happened was that the whole world, not just the Israelites, but all nations achieved a state of immortality. In other words, we all experienced paradise, the future paradise, the future heaven on earth that is promised to us. Now, why did this happen? Moses had the perfect consciousness of love thy neighbor. And so what happened is through the 2 tablets that Moses had, and through Moses' consciousness, the full light of the Creator came into the world. Now, when you talk about the realm of light, there is no time and there is no space. So because there was no more time, because there was no more space, because the light was shining, the future came into the present now. So the future paradise and immortality became manifest, expressed itself for the whole world because the light was shining. There's no time. So the future was here now. Now, when the Israelites saw that Moses supposedly had died because the negative force called the Satan, the adversary, our opponent, was given permission to test the Israelites, to test their consciousness. Because Moses had consciousness, but the Israelites didn't need it to get to the same place. They had to have certainty. When they saw that Moses was dead, because Satan conjured up a vision that's as real as you see me right now, in their minds they said, oh my God, he's dead. They lost certainty in the light that was shining all over the world. And so when they believed Moses was dead, that's what brought death back into existence. Because consciousness creates reality. And that is why they built the golden calf. The story of the golden calf is not about the Israelites worshiping some, calf made of gold. They weren't stupid. It was a technology to connect them to that spiritual world. But the golden calf was not the cause, it was the effect. The cause was they had doubt in immortality. They had doubt in the presence of the light. They had doubt in their teacher, Moses. So, the Rav told me, when the tablets were shattered, because when Moses came down from the mountain, he saw the golden calf, the tablets shattered, we lost our connection to the light, so the light turned off. Darkness was reborn. We lost immortality. All the nations of the world experienced the arrival of death and darkness. When the light was gone, that meant time and space came back into existence. So now, what are we doing? Every Sabbath, the whole purpose of the Sabbath is to pour a little bit of that light that we had on Mount Sinai back into the world. But the Rav said we have to do it in time. We can't have it all at once like we did on Mount Sinai because time came back into existence. And this is why it's taking so long. Because we only get to tap into the scroll of the Torah once a week. Only on the 7th day does a little bit of that light come back into the universe, and we could tap it and put it back and try to restore paradise. So it's been 3,400 years. Now, The Zohar is the soul of the Torah. And we know the soul is on the 99% reality, true reality. So the Zohar is not governed by time. So because the Zohar is not governed by time, you can tap the light of immortality 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is the power of the Zohar. And this is why the Kabbalah said, if we don't achieve immortality, by this day and age, the time frame that we're in right now, you must spread the Zohar, because now you can accelerate by sharing the Zohar. You're removing time. You're bringing the future into the present. And this is why science is now realizing time is an illusion. This is why Einstein in the 20th century said time's an illusion. Because Rabbi Ashlag, the founder of the Kabbalah Center, at the turn of the century, opened up the Zohar to everybody for the first time in history. And so suddenly the cosmos, the universe, was infused with the wisdom of Zohar. And so Einstein tapped into it. All the great physicists of the 20th century, they tapped into it. And that's where they realized time is an illusion. Space is an illusion. And so now if we get enough Zohars out there and we meditate on the Zohar, scan the Zohar, donate a Zohar to somebody once a week, once a month, we're bringing that light back into the world without having to wait for the Sabbath 1 day a week. You can do it tonight, you can do it tomorrow, you can do it 30 seconds from now. This is the power of the Zohar. And the only thing we have to overcome is our doubt.
Actually, I do have a question about the power. You're talking about the power of the Zohar. Billy, if you allow me to ask a question that people posted on the forum throughout the 4 weeks that we had here. And the question is this one. How can I give a pastor a Zohar? So she must have a Christian background. So you said that sharing the Zohar is a way of spreading the light, spreading immortality, connecting 24/7, not waiting for the Torah on Shabbat. So how can she share? How can she give? It's Angela from Venezuela. How can I give a pastor a Zohar?
With an open, loving heart, with the consciousness of certainty, and let her know this is the secret teachings of Jesus. Let her know that Pope Paul IV in 1558 authorized the printing of the Zohar, while the rabbis of the religious establishment were all against the printing of the Zohar. It took the Pope to open the doors to let the Zohar be spread and to be printed, because the printing presses were just invented, and they were very careful which books they allowed to be printed. So when she goes to her pastor, let her know the Pope authorized the printing, the Zohar contains the secret teachings of Jesus, but that's information. More important, it's what's in her heart, and if she is sharing love and light, she'll then open up his heart, and he'll accept it.
Great, thank you very much. One more question about that. It's this one about Annie. Annie has just posted it, so I'm selecting the question here. The question is this one, Billy. I don't know if you're seeing that. Does the Zohar have to be scanned to bring that light, or is owning the Zohar enough?
Owning the Zohar generates light. Having the Zohar on your bookshelf generates light, because it's not a book. If you open the Zohar, you generate more light. If you scan it, even more light. If you study it, even more light. So everybody can connect in the way that they feel comfortable, but the deeper your connection, the greater the light, because it's like a light bulb. There's only one current of electricity. The electricity never changes, but you can have a 5-watt bulb, a 10-watt bulb, a 50-watt light bulb, or a 1,000-watt light bulb. It's the light bulb that determines how much light you generate. The electricity doesn't change. So the light of the Creator, the light of Zohar is there. How much restriction you put into that Zohar determines how much light in your life.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, so, yeah.
No, you can go, please.
Okay, so I'm going to share one miracle story. Maybe a lot of people may have heard it before, but there may be a lot of new people here. So I'll share it again. And I'm not exaggerating. What I'm going to share is exactly how it happened. It took place in 1989.
Can I highlight something you said? Because just so people tap into this, as you said, sharing stories from Kabbalists is the way that we can have our prayers answered. So it really touched me, and I would like to highlight that if you allow me to, because it's something just to put that consciousness. It's all about consciousness. The Rav has been teaching us, and I would like to highlight that.
Beautiful. So in 1989, I was brand new in Kabbalah, didn't know anything, and I was, one of the teachers knocked on my office door he didn't have a Zohar, he had the writings of Kabbalist Rabbi Isaac Luria. It's called the Kitva Ari, the writings of the Ari. The Ari is the nickname of the great Kabbalist Rabbi Isaac Luria, who lived about 500 years ago. Also holy writings because they explain the Zohar. So he knocked on my door, and I met him, and we spoke for 3-4 hours. I was blown away that he was answering questions that no rabbi ever answered for me. I always used to ask the rabbis when I was a kid, why this, why that, why this? And they always said, because it's written. Because the Bible says so. But why? They didn't know why. But because it's written, we do it. And here's the guy from the Kabbalah Center I just met who was answering every question. So anyways, I asked him, who's the leader of this Kabbalah Center? And he gave me a video of the Rav, Kabbalist Rav Berg. It was a lecture on Rosh Hashanah. And I was thinking, wow, I can't wait to see what this rabbi looks like. He either looks like an old Orthodox typical rabbi that I can't stand, or he looks like a charlatan, a guru. And I put the video in my house, and I look, and he's a handsome man, but doesn't look like a traditional Orthodox rabbi. He looks kind of cool, but doesn't look like a charlatan either. I didn't know what to make of it. But something touched me inside, and it was after midnight, just shortly after midnight. My wife's sleeping upstairs, and I went out on my front lawn, and my car's in the garage, my wife's car is in the driveway, and I leaned against her car, and I said, I want a sign to God. I want a sign because I don't have time to mess with this Kabbalah stuff. I'm busy in business. I was doing very well in business. I was reading a lot of science books. I don't have time. I can't stand religion, but I know there's a God. I know there's something out there. God, if this man is the guy, I need a sign now. And it's got to be so obvious, I'm going to tell you what I want to see. I don't want to play games. I haven't seen a falling star since I was a kid. I want to see a falling star, and I'll sit here for 2 hours on my front lawn waiting for it. I lean back on the car, put my arms up, and within 5 seconds, a star literally went across the whole sky on my street. And I screamed out loud. And I ran into the house, and I woke up my wife, and I had an anxiety attack, a bad anxiety attack. I was freaking out. And I said, no more signs. No more signs. I get it. And I stood up all night with not all night, but for about a good hour with my wife, like 2 in the morning, just freaking out of my head. And that was the very first sign I ever got about Kabbalah. It was amazing. So,
it is.
Questions. And we can take a question.
Okay. Concerning that, because you said talking about how you first got in touch with Rav Berg, I have a question from Larry. He's in the United States. How does the Kabbalah Center differ from other traditional Kabbalah teachers?
Nice question. There is and always has been one lineage. There is only one lineage. In other words, you can have scholars who teach about Shakespeare, and they're brilliant scholars who can tell you all about Shakespeare, and they could publish books about Shakespeare. But the lineage is like going to Shakespeare himself. So there are many scholars and many rabbis who've studied Kabbalah, but it's intellectual. The one lineage are the Kabbalists that go all the way back to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai from 2,000 years ago, back to Moses, even back to Abraham. And the Kabbalah is passed down through a secret way from master to student. And the only way you have the lineage is if you were trained and by that person in the lineage before you, and he passed it down to you. So if you want to study Kabbalah somewhere else, you'll get intellectual knowledge. Great, you can learn about history, you can learn about science, you can learn about math, and you become smarter. But when you connect, not study, connect to the lineage, whether it's through study, walking the path, using the tools, you don't get information, you don't get knowledge, you get transformation. You get light, you get miracles, you get tests and challenges, you get growth, you get twisted inside and out, and you become a new person as you elevate to a higher level. That's the difference. You want to transform your life inside and out and change the world, you connect to the lineage. You want to become smart in Kabbalah, you can go anywhere you want.
And talking about that, Angela from Venezuela asked in the forum again, how can we constantly know that we are transforming and being connected to transformation?
Great question. You will know if you're transforming because your life is changing. The proof must be in the pudding. You are never to believe anything when you connect to the lineage of Kabbalists. Never believe your teacher, never believe the Rav, never believe Karen, never believe me, never believe any student, never believe Moshe. Instead, you have to test it, and you have to live it, and then you must see the results. Your life must change. You will experience miracles. You will experience a punch in the face as you grow. Then you'll experience more miracles and blessings, and then another punch and difficulty and challenge. And if you're going back and forth with the miracles and blessings and the challenge and the doubt and more miracles and more, you'll see you are slowly climbing up the ladder of blessings. And as life becomes harder on the ego, life becomes more fulfilling and meaningful and true deep inside. You must see the results. I have a question on my screen.
Okay, which one is it? Because I can select it.
From Tom Scherer. And he says, Billy, how important is it for Christians to study Kabbalah? And two, what can I do or study as a Christian to bring more light to this world? You got that? You heard me?
Yes.
Okay. How important is it for Christians to study Kabbalah? You're not going to get the Messiah without it. You are not going to bring paradise on earth, at least through mercy, unless we bring it to the Christians and the Muslims and the Buddhists. Everybody. Because that's what the chosen people were chosen to do, to bring the light of Mount Sinai to all the nations. You see, we blew it on Mount Sinai, the Israelites. If you're an Israelite, we blew it. Now, because we had doubt in Moses. We had doubt in immortality. We built the golden calf. We brought death back in the world. So we got to bring that light back to people. And as I said, we only have the Sabbath to do it once a week. But the Zohar allows us to bring that light back to everybody now. So we must bring that nourishment to all the Christians and Muslims and Israelites, because that's why the world is suffering. So is it important? Rabbi Ashlag says it's not going to happen without it. It says the same way, Rabbi Ashlag says, the same way Pharaoh in Egypt finally said to Moses after the 10 plagues, your God is God, then the Israelites achieved freedom from slavery. The world will achieve freedom from slavery to pain, to suffering, slavery to our ego, to the Satan, when they realize, wow, that light of Zohar is God, is the light that shines from God. And it has to be proof. We have to get those miracles. So that's the answer to the question. How do you do it? By changing yourself. As much as you change, that's as much Zohar you're going to share. So you get out there and you share the Zohar, and there's no conflict because all the teachings of Christianity and Jesus are in the Zohar. It just has to be explained, but don't worry, don't get intellectual. Share the book, and the more you change, the more people will fill your light.
Okay, we do have, I don't know, these people here, they just joined us. They have to unmute themselves. Can you all please unmute yourselves? Do you know how to do it? You have to click on somewhere on the screen to have you unmuted, and we can start hearing you. We have Hivka unmuted. Hello, Hivka. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Denise, can you unmute yourself if you have any questions there for us? Can you say something? We have a Kabbalah Perth study group, but they have to learn how to... guys, if you want to unmute yourself, you just have to put your scroll on the screen. There's going to appear some... Can I share my screen here with you? I'm going to do that so that you understand. It's okay. I think it's nice that you learned that. Here. What you have to do is this. Can you see my screen, everybody? Wait. Okay, so what you have to do, can you see here, guys? You have to click on this one, mute, unmute, okay, so that you can speak to me. And then you can join us live. Do you have a question, Rivka?
No, not now. I would like to hear another story about the Rav in here.
I will have here from the Kabbalah Perth study group. They cannot say something, but they posted here on our chat. Can I read it?
I'll tell a story, and then I see the question too, and then I'll answer the question.
Okay, great.
So the second story that happened is that my two sons were getting ear infections literally every second week. They'd go on penicillin, it would clear up, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, a month later, another ear infection. So we took them to the hospital to get their ears drained. The first time they ever, were in a hospital, and we were brand new in Kabbalah, so I didn't, know too much. I was involved, but I didn't know, I was brand new, maybe less than a year. And when my boys came out of surgery, the doctor said everything went good. We drained the ears. And so we had the boys in the car. They were sleeping in the back seat. My wife's beside me, and I'm driving. It was downtown Toronto. We're now driving up north. It's about a half an hour drive. We're driving home. And I called the Rav on my car phone. I said, Rav, I just want to let you know, my boys are good, and we had them, we had the surgery, and everything went fine. And the Rav said, don't you think you should change their names? I said, why? He said, if you change their Hebrew names, you can heal this ear problem, because the changing of a name is one of the tools of Kabbalah if someone's getting a constant chronic sickness or ailment. And so he said, what is, first he said, my son David, what's his Hebrew name? So I asked my wife. It was named after my wife's grandfather, whose name was, in English, Isidore. And I said to the Rav, his name was Isidore, which I think was Yitzchak. And my wife said, oh my God. And I said, what? She goes, my grandfather was born with no hearing in one ear. Wow. And the Rav said, that's what happens. When you give somebody that name, you pass on their traits. We're supposed to name our children after the characters in the Bible, because then you get their consciousness, their traits, their attributes. So the Rav said to me, Billy, what's your name? I said, Rav, I don't have a Hebrew name. I never knew it. He said, well, don't you think you should get one? I said, yes. The Rav said, look, I'm getting on a plane in New York for Paris in 2 hours. This Shabbat in Paris, I'll give you a Hebrew name. But I want you to find it yourself. And I'm driving the car, and I'm pulling up to my driveway. I remember it like I'm sitting here right now. And the Rav said, I want you to try and find it yourself to enhance your connection. So I'm going to tell you which volume of Zohar to scan, which paragraph, and then please do that, and which page and which paragraph. So I took out a pen, and I'm in my car. My wife was already carrying my boys into the house. I'm in the driveway, and I'm writing down what the Rav's telling me. This volume, he's giving me the Hebrew, but I'm writing it like in English. The Rav says, you know, Billy, I can tell you any page. There's a reason I'm giving you this volume, this page, and this paragraph, right? I said, yes, Rav, right. And I said, okay, I'll go do it. I'll go in the house now and do it. I hang up my phone, I get out of my car, I go into my den, and there's my 21 blue Hebrew Zohars. And I go, oh my God, I don't know which one is which and which paragraph, because the Rav gave me everything in Hebrew, and I don't know which one it is. I said, you know what? I'll go to my office. Because that day, one of the Chevra was setting up like a little area in my office to do some work out of. I donated some space, and so she was moving in that day. I figured she's got to have a set of Zohars. So I said, I'll go to my office. The Rav didn't know what I was going to do. I go to my office. She's unpacking, and she says, Billy, I don't have a Zohar here. I said, oh my God, we got to hurry. The Rav's getting on a plane soon. He's going to the airport. She said, wait, I have a Zohar in my purse. She goes into her purse. I pull up my note. It's the exact same volume out of the 21 books that the Rav told me to get. But it gets better. She had a Post-it note in one of the pages. She opens up the page and she screamed. She went, ah! That was the page. And the Post-it note was at the paragraph that the Rav gave me.
Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing it.
Who said I was going to go to the office? Right? Who said I was going to go to the office? I was going home. Something said go to the office in my head. Crazy story. Okay, so here's a question from Perth. Moshe, did you see the question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
okay, how important is it that I attend events or even go to Israel? Is my connection watered down if I connect from overseas? I don't want to become superstitious about it.
Wonderful question. And what's so beautiful about Kabbalah is that nobody has the right to tell you what you have to do, what you should do, because each person's tikkun, karma, restriction is relative to that person. So for example, one person is afraid to speak up. His tikkun, speak up. One person never shuts up. His tikkun, shut up. So same situation, two opposites behavior. One guy should be quiet, one should speak, because it depends upon what his personal karma is. Likewise, each of us must make certain connections to transform. The more difficult it is, the more light you get. So if somebody never stepped foot in a Kabbalah center or synagogue or church in their whole life, and then they went in for 20 minutes, that takes more character than somebody who goes to synagogue or church every single day. So the guy who goes in for 20 minutes, he gets more light in that one moment. So it's all dependent upon how much restriction, effort you make in your mind that you're prepared to do. So there's no superstition and there's no guilt. The key is to push ourselves. And only you know if you're pushing yourself. If it's easy, you won't get a lot of light. Not out of guilt, just that's the way the world works. The more restriction, the more light. So if you're not going to an event because you want it easier, no light. If it's hard to go to the event, great light. And in fact, the person who finds it more difficult to go, he doesn't want to go, it's too aggravating, I'm not sure I even believe in it, and he goes, he gets more light than the person who says, I can't wait to go, I love it, I feel the energy in Israel, I'm going to meditate. Big deal. Where's the character? I mean, you get light, but where's the character change? It's the person who breaks his nature. When you break your nature, you crack open those shells, those klippah, those curtains that are around us, you tear them apart, and the light comes in. So that if you just can't get there because it's impossible one year, and you make an effort to connect through video, you will get light. And you meditate to be there, great. But if you can get there and you just don't want to because it's inconvenient, you'll still get light if you connect, but you would get more light if you put forth the effort. And only you will know that. Nobody has a right to tell you. So here's the problem. Nobody knows how much light you need in your life. You may need, I'm going to use a very crude metaphor, you may need a gallon of light in your life. If you get a Zohar, maybe it's worth 50 ounces. So you get the Zohar and you get 50 ounces of light, but nothing changes because you're still short. Another person gets a Zohar and he only needs a half an ounce of light. When he gets the Zohar, because it's worth 50 ounces, bam, he gets a miracle. One person gets a miracle, the other doesn't. The other person needs to do more work. Maybe give a donation because he's got a bigger karmic debt. Maybe he needs 2 Zohars. Maybe he needs the Zohar and he's got to study it for a month. Then comes the miracle. So maybe you need to get to Israel to make that connection. Maybe you don't. Maybe being here right now asking the question is what you need. So that's why we need a teacher. A teacher guides us and helps us to find our answer. But only you will know if you're really breaking your nature.
And concerning going to the connections, we have here a question from Yvonne from the UK, and I'm going to select the question there for you. She says that she's Christian and she's studying Kabbalah. However, she's heard from her teacher that she has to do the Shabbat to receive the full knowledge. So how can she do it? She's in the UK.
She's not near a London center?
Well, maybe that's the question. So how can she do it? She can go to the. She's from Aberdeen. Aberdeen. I don't think it's in London. She's in the UK.
Oh, I mean, if she can't get to a Kabbalah center, I mean, that's a question for a teacher. I can't mix in between a teacher and a student. But my answer that I gave before is the same. You do what you can, and you make the effort. For someone who's never been in a Kabbalah center for a true Shabbat their whole life, if they go once a month, they're getting more than the one person who may go every week but doesn't change.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So if you can't get there every week, try going once a month, once every 2 months, once every 2 weeks. Make sure you understand your teacher properly, because if you don't live near a center, you can't get there. Maybe they mean keep the Shabbat by not working on Saturday and connecting through streaming. It's a question for your teacher. All you have to do is say, am I pushing myself? And when I do the Shabbat, do I notice a difference? Not that it's easy, but do I notice a difference or more richness in my life and results?
Speaking about the mind over matter, because that was one of the things that you said we would like to talk about. Anna Carneiro, she's asking, we know the Rav would sleep very few hours a night. Can you tell us why was that, and what practical actions can we take to daily work mind over matter?
First, the Rav teaches we already have mind over matter. Everybody here tonight has perfect mind over matter. So what's the problem? The problem is our doubt, our tzatan. We believe matter is more powerful, so therefore, with our mind over matter, we hand over the power to matter because we believe it, and we make it so. We make it so. We already have certainty, perfect certainty. The problem, we have certainty in our doubts. We have certainty in our skepticism. We have certainty in skepticism, cynicism, pessimism, and you can't get out of it intellectually. You got to rip it out of your consciousness so that your certainty won't activate the negative consciousness. You can't think your way out of this. You have to purify your consciousness, and then when your consciousness only sees positive, then your mind over matter is going to create positive. That's why the only work is to get rid of Satan, get rid of the ego. There's no other work. The whole world looks like it does because of our because mind over matter. We believe the other person's negative. We don't see Satan. We don't believe he exists. When somebody hurts us, we blame the person. So we make it so. It's the person. Satan becomes invisible. When we get mad at that person, we don't see our Satan. So therefore it is us. So we have mind over matter every day. As soon as you think, that person's more powerful, he is. As soon as you believe you can't put your hand through the wall, you can't. The wall's more powerful because your mind over matter made it. And if you doubt me now, you'll be right. That's how dangerous mind over matter is and consciousness is. That's how dangerous Satan is. If you believe in death, you'll be right. We're going to die. If you think what I'm saying is nonsense, in your life, you're going to be right. No one's going to mix it and save you. You got to get to that consciousness yourself, and that's the power of the Zohar and the power of the path. Now, why did the Rav stay up all night? 2 hours a night? Because to beat up the body, to weaken that ego so that the mind over matter would be applied to positive things. So the second reason is the light, the spiritual light, shines brightest after midnight. That's when the gates open up. That's when the Creator, God Himself, goes into the chambers and He studies Zohar, the Torah, the Bible, with the Kabbalists who are there now. So if we stay up, the Zohar connects us into that chamber where God, the energy, the consciousness of God is, and you are now learning, really means connecting, to the light that all the great Kabbalists of history and the Creator are revealing. So that's when you want to capture it all. So why wouldn't you want to get all of it? It's like someone says, I'm opening up the bank, you can run into the vault, and you got 3 hours to get what you want. You're going to go in for 5 minutes, you're going to spend the whole night there and grab what you can. That's why the Rav stays up.
Wow, that's amazing. It's as we say, when everybody thinks that it's darkness, it's actually, as you said, is when the light is shining the brightest, yes? And when it's actually when the sun is shining, it's actually at midday is the time where there is much more judgment in the world. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Would like to share any more Rav Mind of Amera stories, or should I pick the question?
This is a great story. The Rav, I was with the Rav in the Rav's hotel room during one of the events. I think it was either Shavuot or Passover, one of the events, going back 20 years ago. And so it's just me and the Rav in the hotel room. The Rav says to me, you know what would happen if the Rav flew in front of everybody? If I went into that war room for Passover or whatever the holiday was, and I started to fly or teleported, you know what happened? I said, what? They'd forget 20 minutes later. He said, the Israelites saw the Red Sea part. What a miracle. And then 2 days later, they're complaining like nothing happened. So the Rav could fly. I said, I believe it. So, I forget how long after, maybe a few months after, the Rav and Karen, Yehuda and Michael, the family, invited me and my 2 sons to a hockey game. And I was seated with my 2 boys. They gave us the tickets in one side of the stadium, the arena, and the Rav and Karen and the boys were seated in a whole other section, another side of the arena. And so I'm there with my boys, and the place is sold out. It was at the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles before Staples Center was built, for those that know LA. And after the first period, and what's the Rav going to a hockey game for? I mean, it's because it was amazing. Wow, the Rav's going to a hockey game. The whole family's going to a hockey game. It was crazy. So the first period ends, and if you saw the old arena, jam-packed. the old stadium. You can't move. So you leave your seat, you go out into the concession area to go get a drink or a popcorn or something, and it's jam-packed with people. And me and my boys are there, and they're very young at the time. And I turn around, and there's the Rav standing right there in this huge crowd. Whoa, Rav, how are you, Rav? What's the Rav standing here? And the Rav was holding a sandwich. He said, "You boys want a sandwich?" The great Kabbalist is in a hockey arena with a sandwich, like standing right there with the crowd. I said, "Boys, you want a bite of the sandwich?" They took a bite of the sandwich. The Rav says, "How's the game?" "Game's fun, Rav. It's a great game. Thank you again for the tickets." "Good." Rav says, "Come with me. I'm going to go to the bathroom now." Okay. We go up, my two boys and the Rav says, "Wait here." And the Rav goes into the bathroom, and something came into my head. Ask my boys. I said, "Boys, watch the doors. The Rav's not coming out." We sat there for 10 minutes. The Rav didn't come out. I said, "Okay, let's go in." We went into both. The Rav was gone. We went to the bathroom, gone. So we ran to find them in their seats on the other side of the stadium, and there's the Rav sitting there as if he never left. The Rav was literally like in two places at the same time. You had to be there, but it was mind-blowing. But what was even more incredible, not that the Rav was in two places at the same time. For me, what was incredible, how did I know to tell my boys to watch the doors? How did I know? I said to my boys, the Rav's not coming out. Why wouldn't the Rav come out? And why would Yehuda and Michael let the Rav walk around the stadium by himself? It's the Rav. You always escort the Rav. The Rav's not going to walk around carrying a sandwich in the Great Western Forum or this hockey stadium. It was amazing. But the fact that I knew that touched me. My boys were thrilled that the Rav wasn't there. For me, it was, how did I know to say that? So it was a really, really cool story.
It is indeed, and I'm sorry, but I get very emotional when I hear that, and when I hear the Rav stories, it really makes me, well, connect to something that is bigger than I am. So again, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us and accepting my humble invitation for you to answer some questions from people there. And we do have here Elijah. Elijah, can you hear me? Let's see if Elijah can join us, saying something. Hello there, Elijah. Are you there? Elijah, can you hear me? Elijah can hear you. Would you like to ask Billy a question? No? Elijah? No. Okay. There is a question here, Billy. I find it very surprising and something that never came to my mind. It's a student asking about how can a blind person learning Kabbalah and connect with the light of the Zohar? Because can the Zohar be converted into Braille? And what effect would it have if you cannot scan it in the way that Kabbalists have taught us? It's Meki.
Study it with somebody, with a study partner. Have somebody read it to you. And if I had Pinchas, the small mini Pinchas, I'd keep it in my pocket. I would sleep with it. I do. I sleep with it in my bed. And your connection is even harder to make, which means it generates even more light.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it necessary to be part of a group when studying Kabbalah? This is David Dillian asking a question from the forum.
Again, it's about connecting to the lineage. So when you study with a group of people that are all plugged into the Kabbalah Center, because the Kabbalah Center is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Kabbalah Center is Rabbi Ashlag, is Rabbi Brownwayne, is Rabbi Isaac Lurie. It's the conscience of the Zohar. It's all one. So when we study together now, the reason we feel a connection to each other, it's the light. It's not us. You can have the closest friends when you're in Kabbalah. When they leave the center, you lose that. Light is what creates friendship, marriage, business, success. Or you're getting it from Satan. And then he takes it away later. So when you plug in to the Kabbalah Center and the students, and we're all plugged in, you'll see your relationships, your connections, your friendships, they grow, they're filled with light and energy, and you're tapping into the lineage. And the Kabbalists say, the reason we do congregate on the Sabbath, on Rosh Hashanah, on Hanukkah, the reason we congregate is the power of unity is what breaks Satan.
Right.
Unified evil can defeat the side of good if there's disunity in the side of good. That's how powerful unity is. Evil, if it's unified, will even defeat the side of good. The only way to defeat unified evil is through having the good side unify. And that's the power of congregating and studying together in a group.
I do need to ask you this question because it's from South Africa. It's Faith asking the question, and the question is this one. What are the 3 tips that you can provide to a teenage parent trying to raise spiritual children?
What I learned from the Rav, don't tell them what they got to do. Be a living example of the way you want them to be. Number 1. Number 2, you can read all the books. You can get all the advice, like you're asking me for advice. You can go to the Rav and ask, you can go to Dr. Spock and ask Dr. Spock his advice, or ask some teenage consultant or psychiatrist or psychologist. You can do everything great. You're still only giving them 1%. The key for your children, whether they be preteen or teenagers, is to plug them into the light. Because now, even if you make a mistake on the 1%, the light comes in and eventually fixes everything. Whatever we do as parents, it's only 1% of what they need. So the Rav taught me, the more I got rid of my own ego, the more I increased my connection to the light, it fixed all the mistakes I did with my kids. And that's what plugged them in. The stronger my connection, and without trying to teach them or preach to them, but to share with them, the stronger their connection. So be the person you want your children to be. Work on your own ego, because when you get your ego out of the way by diminishing it, now you can channel that light. And the Kabbalist in Karenberg teaches, there's always, no matter what age, a spiritual umbilical cord connected between parent and child. So if you have no ego, the light will flow through you and go to your children even if they're 35 years old and nourish them. So that's why you, by enhancing your connection to the light, you send the light to your children. And sometimes it may take a while because they have karma and they have tikkun. Now something else I want to share with you. I have 4 kids, bli and ara.
No.
And one of my children, wanted to test something that's negative in this world. And another one avoided it. And so I got upset when one of my children did something wasn't the most purest thing to do. And Karen yelled at me and said, "What are you trying to take away that person's tikkun for? Let them live. You gave them the tools. You're doing your work. Where did you come from, Billy?" Karen said, "Where did I come from?" That's how you grow. So some kids have to go into the negativity a little bit to taste it, to grow, because then they elevate the sparks. Some will be pure and do a different path. It depends on where their soul comes from, what the root of their soul is, what their karma, their tikkun is. And so you must give your children the space to be who they're supposed to be. Love them unconditionally. Let them come to you with any problem. And if they come to you, never punish them if they come to you. Otherwise, you lose all credibility. If you say you can come to me without judgment, then you better not judge. And if there needs to be discipline, change yourself.
Can you say, when I first came to Kabbalah 5 years ago, from a Christian background, I heard something that really changed the way that I saw my parents, you know, Billy. And I think that we all have the tikkun with parents, tikkun with people, and we have to correct. You were speaking about tikkun and parents. Could you expand or say the Rav's teachings on the fact that we choose our parents and how that helps us in our tikkun process? And because for me, learning that I had chosen my parents made me appreciate them and whatever they did, and it really changed my life. And could you
Exactly,
say?
because the Satan always wants to make us a victim. My parents are no good, they don't understand me, my siblings don't understand me. And when you realize you chose them, because when you're up there, before you come down, you know your tikkun, you know your karma, you know the challenges you have to go through. So when you're up there, you see the whole picture. You can't. Okay, I get it. When you come down here, the moment we're born and we come out of the womb, an angel taps us right here, so we forget everything. Right in the upper lip, it's a magical little spot here. We forget everything because that's the only way we're going to have free will. That's the only way we can make our transformation. So we forget that we chose our parents. We forget when something happens when we're 18 years old. We forget that we knew about it in the womb. We knew about it before we even came down into this physical reality. So that's why we need Kabbalah. Once you know you've chose your parents and you chose a situation, you now have the strength to react differently. Because do you want to be right or do you want to have light?
That's true. Elijah has a question here. Elijah, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yes. Where are you from, Elijah? I'm curious.
Yes, I want to take you back, Billy, to the study in the Zohar after midnight. What is more important, to study the Zohar or to study the Bible, to read the Bible after midnight?
The Zohar is the Bible. What do you mean?
Not the actual Bible, the Torah.
No,
Not the Zohar, but the Torah.
No, the Torah is only on Shabbat, on the Sabbath. Remember I said earlier, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, because of time, the Torah can only be revealed once a week. There's 7 sfirot, right?
Okay.
Okay, so the 7 sfirot manifest as the 7 days of the week. We can only tap the Torah on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath. So that's the problem. We only get a little bit of light every week. We're getting the light that we lost on Mount Sinai, right? We had immortality on Mount Sinai. We built the golden calf after we doubted Moses and immortality, and now we lost that light, and now we only get once a week to put it back into the cosmos. And now with the Zohar, because it's the soul of the Torah. The soul is beyond time. So now you can study the Zohar 7 days a week and reveal the light, where the Torah only on the Sabbath. So after midnight, only the Zohar during the 6 days of the week.
Because being from a Christian again background, Billy, people don't really understand the difference between the Zohar and the Torah. So when they think that reading the Bible will connect them to something, as you said, it's on Shabbat, and the Zohar is 24/7. So it's the light of immortality that we lost back on Mount Sinai. So
Yes.
that's the light we should connect to, right?
Exactly. The Zohar is the soul of the Old Testament, the soul of all biblical writings. It's what Jesus taught to his closest disciples. Jesus only gave the Zohar teachings to his close disciples, and to the masses, to the public, to the world, he spoke in parable, because it was too powerful. They couldn't grasp it. Now we can talk about 10 dimensions, 7 dimensions. We can understand there's no time, no space. We can get into all these concepts because of science. But they couldn't back then, and it wasn't allowed to back then, without getting into the details. That will be another session. When you study the Zohar, you're studying the soul. The Torah, the Bible without a soul, is dead. Like a body without a soul is dead. Why do you think there's been so much bloodshed throughout history? How come the Bible didn't bring peace? How come the Torah didn't help during the Holocaust? How come the Torah didn't help during the Crusades? How come the New Testament isn't stopping people from dying every day and Christians from suffering and going through pain and terrible? And why all the corruption in religion, all the molestation and money laundering in all the religions? Why? The Bible's not working because we don't have the soul. The problem's not the Bible. The problem is we're missing the soul. And we're missing the soul because of us. Specifically the Israelites.
That's true. And Israelites, when you say the Israelites, can you say who the Israelites are? Because again, I think that people, if they haven't been studying Kabbalah for a while, they don't know
Nobody knows who an Israelite is.
Okay.
Only Elijah the prophet and the Messiah knows. But who are they by definition? The Israelites are the 600,000 souls who stood at Mount Sinai 3,400 years ago. The descendants of Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. We are the children of Israel, the children of Jacob. The Christians come from Esau, Jacob's brother. And the Muslims come from Ishmael, which was Yitzchak, Isaac's brother, son of Abraham. But we're all brothers. We're all one family. It's only the Satan, the ego, that creates a separation because we're missing the soul.
Great. We do have here from the questions and answers, Billy, some people, they've been +1 the questions. So I'd like to do the rapid fire questions with you before you share some more miracle stories. Let's do it?
Yep.
Okay. From Javier, do we need to have all the volumes of the Zohar to bring and share light?
The more volumes, the more light.
Okay.
But if you have but I think what he's saying, if I have 21 volumes at home of the red or the blue and I give one away, yeah, that's okay. You're sharing Zohar, you're giving them away, if that's what he's talking about. But I would have a complete set in my house. I would have a complete set in my office. I have another set where I hand out Zohars, or you get the one black Zohar, the sacred Zohar, which has all volumes. You know, again, it's up to you. Whatever you want to connect, you know. The stronger your connection, and don't get physical, you know what I mean? Even though it is physically, the book brings light, connect to that light. I study the word.
Great. I can't pronounce his name, Neverson. I think it's Neverson. He's asking, what if I not believe in God? How do you approach atheists?
First of all, I don't believe in God either. You either know or you don't know. You don't believe. If you have belief, you're already implying doubts. Our job is not to convince atheists. Our job is to convince myself, to strengthen my certainty. We're here because we lack certainty. Sorry, correction. We have perfect certainty. We have certainty in our doubts. We're here because we doubted Moses. I got to worry about the atheist inside of me. If I get mad because somebody hurts me in business, I'm an atheist if I get mad. I don't have certainty in the light. I have certainty in my ego. I have certainty in my anger, and that's what brings my anger out. If I had certainty in the light, I'd say, oh, he hurt me in business. I deserved it. It's my tikkun, my karma. The light's in control. I'll fix my consciousness, and then I'll try and fix the situation. But from a place of accountability, from a place of responsibility, not from a place where I'm a victim, poor me. If I say poor me, I'm a victim, I'm the atheist. Who am I to tell an atheist what he should believe? So share, become a candle. If you become a candle, if I hold a candle in my hand right now, the atheist, the Muslim, the Christian, the Jew, whoever it is, they're going to feel my light because light radiates. I'm not here to teach and preach. I'm not here to tell and sell. I'm here to share my candle. I got to light the candle within myself, and then I shine.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. Do you think the 72 names of God should be printed in other alphabets in order to spread this wisdom to a broader spectrum of people, or is there a unique energy in the Aramaic modern Hebrew alphabet? You have spoken about that before, but I think it's why not translate the 70 names of God into other alphabets?
Satan, as we know, is a genius. And so he's convinced the world that Hebrew belongs to a religion. Hebrew belongs to all mankind. It was a language in existence before there were Jews, before there were Israelites, before there was Mount Sinai, before there was religion and spiritual paths. The Hebrew letters are like oxygen. Oxygen belongs to all mankind. Doesn't matter what faith, what gender, what belief you have. It belongs to all mankind. It's not an alphabet. It's the instruments of creation. It's consciousness in the shape of certain forms that we can connect to. They're shapes of consciousness. And different combinations ignite another wave of consciousness. So the Hebrew language belongs to all mankind. We know it in our soul. Jesus spoke Aramaic. He didn't speak Latin. He didn't speak Greek. He didn't speak English. He didn't speak Hebrew. He spoke Aramaic with the Hebrew letters, which create the Aramaic language. That's the language of Zohar. That's the language of the 72 names. Just have certainty in their power. Don't worry about other people not understanding it. If they're ready, they're going to get it. It's not our job to determine if they're ready. It's our job just to share it for our own sake. Next question.
Do you have any inspiration for Jewish or anyone who don't appreciate the importance of Shabbat, Torah, Zohar, and Kabbalah?
What's the question?
Do you have any inspiration for Jewish or anyone who don't appreciate the importance of Shabbat, Torah, Zohar, and Kabbalah?
Do I have inspiration?
Yeah, if you can say something about people who don't appreciate the Torah, the Shabbat, the Zohar.
They got to test it for themselves. If they listen to me, they're going to be just reactive, and they're just going to, they're going to be the effect. So instead, test it one step at a time and see if there's a change. These stories we're sharing today, if they touch something, if this engagement today we're having that we're sharing together, if it resonates something inside of you, that should tell you something. Then maybe go test a little bit more. So we need to deepen our own appreciation, which leads me, I want to share another story about the Rav. As I said, we have 4 children. And my wife always gave birth, believe it or not, to big babies, 8, 9, 10 pounds. And she always gave birth naturally every time. Everything went perfect. With our 4th child, our daughter, we're now in Kabbalah. We're in Kabbalah. And for the first time, she goes to the doctor just before, I think, I don't know how long, near before the birth was going to take place, before the baby was due. And she goes to her doctor. He says, uh-oh, the baby's upside down. It's breech. It's a breech baby. So the head's in the wrong position. And he said, if that's the case, we're going to have to do a cesarean section, and you won't be able to deliver naturally. So the Rav happened to be in Toronto after she had that doctor's appointment. And so my wife, Mary Ann, went to the Kabbalah Center in Toronto, and the Rav was there. And she told the Rav what happened at the checkup. The Rav took a volume of Zohar, and he showed her where to scan. He said, tonight, I want you to read this specific passage, and then call me tomorrow. So that night, my wife gets into the bath. She lights a candle. Hang on, my phone's ringing. She lights a candle, and she meditates on that Zohar. And I'm downstairs, and I hear her scream. And she yells, Billy, Billy, come upstairs. I run upstairs. She's in the bath, and she points to her stomach. She goes, look. And her whole stomach is moving, like in the movie Alien. I don't know if you saw the movie Alien. The whole stomach is moving and like this. And she was in terrible pain. It's going up and down and up and down. And she's in the bath. And I said, what's going on? She goes, I'm scanning what the Rav gave me. I said, don't worry. She goes back to the doctor. And he says, quote unquote, what happened? It's a miracle. The baby's not breech. Not only is the baby not breech, you're crowning. You're ready to give birth. And she gave birth, and the baby came out perfect. We told the Rav. And the Rav says, really? Wow.
Bli Ain Hara, the power of the Zohar. And
I get tons of stories like that. You know, you tell one story, there's just so many miracles in our lives like that. But let's take a few more questions, and I'll share more in a minute.
Great. There is one question, Billy, that people have been posting from all over the world, and I don't know that I haven't seen anyone except Yehuda Berg in his book. But the question is, two questions in one because it's the same thing. How can I talk to my Christian friends about why the Kabbalah Center accepts gays and lesbians, and in what way is it possible to develop spirituality, or sorry, to develop spiritually by Kabbalah if you are homosexual? Because the Bible, in the Bible, very literally writes that it's a sin.
Beautiful question. Where are they from, by the way? Tell me where the people
We
are
have Philip from Austria,
from.
And Angela from Venezuela. We have many people I can see, but we have at least 4 or 5 people asking that about homosexuality in our forum.
Okay, so basically, it's very simple. The Kabbalist Rabbi Akiva, who lived 2,000 years ago, the Torah itself, and Jesus all teach, and Rabbi Ashlag said it the best. You read the writings of Rabbi Ashlag. The whole purpose of Torah, there are 613 precepts, 613 laws that we came to observe, if you're an Israelite, to transform. But out of the 613, only one is important. The other 612 are just to help you achieve it. And what is that? Love thy neighbor as thyself. Every other law, every other precept, every other instruction that we do is just to help us to get to love thy neighbor. So, if you have a homosexual couple who are trying to transform and trying to become kinder, gentler people, and you have a heterosexual couple who are abusive to each other, abusive to people, mentally abusive, emotionally abusive, physically abusive, who reveals more light?
The gay couple.
Thank you. It's about love thy neighbor, not about who we're sleeping with. Now, the reason that homosexuality is not considered to be a positive act only for men, not for women. So it's got nothing to do with being gay or the sexual relationship. It's to do with technology. Because if it was about homosexuality, it would be a sin, one of the precepts, for women to engage in gay sex. Right? It's nothing to do with that. The reason that they say to refrain from a homosexual relationship is because there is the spilling of seed. It doesn't get placed inside a woman's sexual reproductive organ. So therefore, when the sperm is spilled out in the open, negative forces can attach to it because it's the light force of God, and therefore it's just going to become more harder to become love thy neighbor. There's going to be more negativity. Women don't emit that seed. It's not a problem. So it doesn't. So I'm not supposed to. There's a lot of precepts I don't honor because it's difficult for me, and I try and do them all. So it's just about these are the techniques to get the maximum you can to transform to love thy neighbor. It's got nothing to do with morals. Number 2, Rabbi Isaac Luria says there's no such thing as homosexuality. Now I'm going to tell you a great secret now. Gay does not exist. Here's what's happening. Male and female, light and vessel, is the only attraction that takes place. So the Ari says what's happening with homosexuality is that each of us, me, I'm heterosexual, my friend who may be homosexual, we have the same soul. Everybody on earth has the same soul. Part female, part male. Adam and Eve used to be one soul. So each of us has male and female. When two people of the same sex are attracted, it's the male aspect of one soul attracted to the female aspect of the other soul. It's not female-female or male-male. So for tikkun and karmic purposes, the female aspect is dominant in one person, and the male aspect is dominant in the other, and that's the connection. And that may be because in a previous life I was abusive, I didn't treat women with respect. So now, when I come back in this world, my female side is going to be more dominant so that I can learn to have respect and kindness for people and to fix that part of myself. So there is no such thing as someone gay or deformed or not part of being in God's image. We're all in God's image. We're all in God's children. We're all God's children. And people who discriminate against gays, they're causing more darkness in the world than a gay couple who's treating people with respect and kindness and working on themselves emotionally and physically and spiritually. So Satan corrupted everything. And the Bible was written that way literally so that we could get out of our stupid ego consciousness and get to a higher level consciousness and understand what I just said. It's about love thy neighbor. It's like, you know, if you go to a synagogue on the Sabbath, you'll see people elbowing each other to get to the Torah to kiss the Torah. The commandment is to go kiss the Torah. Go kiss it when it, not a commandment, but it's required. Go kiss the Torah when the Torah is brought out of the ark. You know, so we run to. I gotta keep the commandments. I gotta kiss the Torah, and you're elbowing everybody. The stupidity, the darkness that we create. There are people who abuse homosexuals and say they're not part of God. Darkness. You want to bring the Messiah? What did Jesus say? Turn the other cheek, love your enemy, love the person you disagree with. The Messiah would be here in 5 minutes if the most narrow-minded person could find love in his heart for, you know, his gay enemy. It would be over. That's the trick. That's the stupidity that Satan has pulled on us that we buy into every single day. Not realize when Jesus told us, when Rabbi Akiva told us, when the Torah tells us, love thy neighbor, there's nothing else. Now I can go into a whole lecture about immortality, which explains how we'll get there, even physically if we love thy neighbor, but not for today.
Okay. I think we're close to 1 hour and a half, and I would like to, there is one question from Thomas. Thomas is from the United States, Billy, and he asks, for a person that works a lot of hours, what prayers do you think are absolutely essential during these times?
Zohar. Studying Zohar, meditating Zohar, scanning Zohar, using the 72 names of God, the Yana B'Koach, the 42-letter name of God. If your time is limited, open up that Zohar. If you can get to a center on the Shabbat, that's great on a Saturday. I don't know if he's Christian or Israelite or whatever, but the Zohar is the fast track. Now, if he is an Israelite, then he should speak to his teacher to see what he would recommend in terms of the daily connections. You know, there's morning, etc. But the Zohar is the fast track. We're at the end. We got to sprint to the goal line.
Let's do it. And I think that by you spreading and sharing the Rav secrets and the Rav miracles, I think we are sprinting up towards that. Do you have one more miracle stories, and then we can wrap it up?
Yeah, we'll save all the rest for another time. I've got so many more here. They're all listed here. But I think for this
By the way, we have like 21 people live with us. It's been constant, so I'd like to thank all these 25 people who have been with us here. And anyway, thank you very much.
Just before the Rav left the world, it was about a week before, I was at the hospital, and the Rav was unconscious. and there was some chevra there trying to wake up the Rav and trying to take care of the Rav, and the doctors couldn't wake the Rav up, and one of the chevra said to me, Billy, see if you can get one of your miracle stories with the Rav. See if you can wake up the Rav. I said, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. The Rav gave me the miracles. But I sat down, and I listened, and I waited, and then I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't for me to wake up the Rav. And I had a feeling in my mind, what was going on. I said, Rav, in my mind, I know the Rav's upstairs working now. The Rav's not going to be in two places at the same time, conscious in this world, and up there. He's going full force up there right now, and that's why the Rav's not waking up. And you know what they're doing here, they're just worrying about the 1%. So Rav, if that's what's going on, let me know. I'm going to go home, back to work, so I can do what I came to do. So I need a sign, Rav. Open your eyes just once, then I know it's, or make one of the machines beep. Have it malfunction or something, and then I know you're talking to me. I know you're doing what I just said. The Rav's up there, because I had perfect certainty what was going on. 2 seconds later, Dominic screamed. The Rav opened his eyes. The Rav opened his eyes, and the machine went beep, 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 beep. The machine goes off. I went, thank you, I'm out of here, and everybody have a nice day.
Wow. Thank you very much. That's amazing.
That kind of confirmation, you know what I mean? That kind of communication was amazing.
It is. Thank you very much. And I think that everyone appreciates your being here and sharing the Rav stories. And we do have 2 questions here, Billy, that I'd like to say. We have from Gerardo and Gabriel, I think. And it's about Jesus' teachings. And I have to say that I'm proud to say I invited you for next live Q&A. And this Q&A is going to be about Jesus the Kabbalist. Question and answers on the secret teachings of Rabbi Yeshua, Jesus, son of Joseph. And Billy Phillips kindly accepted us once again, to join us in this live Q&A. We have the form ready. The form is going to be posted. Billy is going to post the form on his webpage, and you can start putting the questions there. We do have 2 questions from the audience regarding that, and I think we can save it for a later event. The event is going to take place on the 2nd of March. It's Monday again. It's a little bit, it's going to be earlier this time, 1:30 p.m. Los Angeles time, 6:30 p.m. Brazil time. Well, let's wrap it up. What are the final words, Billy?
That's it. Thank you for coming. I appreciate everybody who came, and let's get the job done.
And can I say something? One thing that is a miracle for me, we have 72 viewers right now. 72 meaning the 72 names of God, and I have the Rav's picture here in front of me. It's a picture that I really love. It's him smiling, and that's a confirmation I was asking, and I didn't say it out loud, but it's been 71, 72, 71, 72. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and thank everybody for being here up, sharing the light. Let's sprint up towards immortality, right?
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you.